Oh, aloha, everyone.
Yeah, but Charlie, can you hear us okay?
I can, thank you. And I think I can see everybody in the room. Aloha.
Hello, Charlie.
Have we got quorum?
We got 6 AC members here today, 3 on Zoom, 3 in person.
Okay, great. I hope you can all see me and hear me. Sorry,
Yes.
I couldn't make the trip today. I just have something pending right after it, so I didn't have time to probably make the trip down and back in time. Anyway, it's great to see you all. I guess we can commence the meeting. We can open the meeting. We're good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, so yeah, so I just want to just open the meeting. It's 12:02, October 22nd, 2024, and this is the monthly scheduled meeting for the Kona Community Development Plan Action Committee. So welcome, everybody. As usual, I'd like to open with a Olelo no Eau before we get into introductions. Well, I'm the chair, Charles Young. Aloha. And I usually start with Olelo no Eau just to sort of set the tone for the meeting and set my mind correctly. I thought this one was quite appropriate and maybe cute at the same time. The Olelo no Eau is Aohe, Ola o ka aina, I ke ali'i, haipule ole. And the translation, literal translation is, the land cannot live under an irreligious chief. And I thought it was appropriate since we have an election coming up next week. And there's a lot of, I think, contention in some of the local races, certainly on the national level too. And that I think this is how Native Hawaiians viewed their leaders. Okay, so we'll go through. Let me see. I just want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so let's just call it to order, and we'll do the introductions first. I'm Charles Young. I'm the chair of the Action Committee, and generally I'll go around and let each person introduce themselves. So I'll start with you, Nancy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nancy Sikio. I'm the vice chair. It's good to see that we have a quorum today. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, I see also that there's Heather's present in person.
Yeah, my name's Heather Karate, and I'm a member of the Kona CDP from Captain Cook.
Yeah. I'll leave our new member till last. I see online we have Dave.
David Huerta.
And John, is that you? Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm John Pelletier, Action member.
Okay. And we are welcoming a new member. If you can introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little about yourself.
Charla Thompson, and lived in Kona for 37 years. I'm a photographer, and so I do a lot of community projects. Used to photograph Ironman for Ironman. Now I'm photographing a lot of soccer kids and football kids and schools, and just part of the community. I'm happy to be on the Action Committee. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, well, welcome. I hope we don't disappoint you. We have absent today Rosalind Molina and John Pelletier. Oh no, John, you're on. Why you say?
I am Charlie. I think we sent you a chair script via email, in case you want to.
Yeah,
Reference
Okay.
it. Wasn't sure if you got it.
all right. No, I did. Okay, let's introduce county staff.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. I'm Mariam Palma, Community Planning Supervisor. And then here today, we also have Janice Hatta, Planner, Cabello Khalili, Planner, and Jessica Lahip, Planner.
Okay, great. Just the housekeeping, make sure your cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. If there's anyone who would like to testify, please fill out a sign up form, give it to our staff. Zoom testifiers, you can send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating which item you wish to testify on. And we ask that everyone state your name before you begin speaking. I believe Long Range has put some comments in the chat as well with regards to how you with regards to testimonies. Okay. Also, I think we want people to speak directly into the camera and as close to the owl as you possibly can, so everyone online we can all hear each other. Okay, yeah, one comment too, just for the testifiers too. Generally, we ask the testifiers to invite them to testify at the beginning of the meeting on any of the agenda items, but the chair also will entertain folks providing comment when the agenda item is actually up for discussion too. So next order is the approval of the minutes, and I believe the last minutes were was it the July meeting? Yeah, July 23rd meeting.
It wasn't September 24th.
Sorry.
Never mind.
We had a meeting in between that was not quorum, so yeah, I guess we have no minutes for that.
So when's in the file are the July 23rd minutes?
That's correct.
A motion to approve the minutes of July 23rd, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion, comments, amendments? Enough? If not, can we get in a motion to approve?
I submit a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Nancy already made the motion.
Yeah. Nancy made the motion and Heather seconded.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? Okay, hearing none, then the minutes are approved. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the business items, we have 3 items on the agenda, and we're going to take them in that order. The first business is the final draft general plan 2045, discussion and decision making on submitting testimony to Leeward Planning Commission regarding the draft general plan.
Is April going to talk to us today?
Yeah, if we have questions for April, we can get her online. If you guys want to go straight into your testimony, you want to read off your testimony, you want to have her on? we can-
I don't have anything on the general plan today. I'd like to reserve the ability for us if we decide to submit testimony in the future, but I don't have anything personally today.
Okay. How does the rest of the community feel?
Any other council members?
Yeah, I don't have anything obviously on what we already submitted, to the planning department. So the comments. So but it'd be good to have the ability to submit some later if needed.
Right. Okay, just a question for staff. What's the timeline now?
Right,
General
so.
plan, I think you mentioned it once before, but I just wanted to get it on the record here.
Right, so as of right now, the general plan, final packet is being packaged up to be sent to planning commission by the end of the week. Planning commission will begin their meetings, regarding general plan on November 1st. And then they're gonna have a series of, I believe, 20 or so meetings, up until late February to possibly even to March if necessary, regarding the general plan. Those meetings in the beginning will kind of just serve as introduction and moments for testimony and things like that. And the commission will continue to kind of deliberate it during that window of time. Once, I believe, after March is when they have to provide a recommendation or non-recommendation. Once they make their decision, that decision is passed to county council, and county council will begin their review and deliberation of the draft plan. And county council doesn't have a timeline on that, so it could sit with them for a minute. But so we're looking at the next 6 months, this plan being at planning commission, and it'll share going between Leeward and Windward. Yeah, and they're gonna be having regular meetings and special meetings just for the general plan. They'll probably be all day meetings, kind of like that. That's what it's looking like right now.
Is the final step for it to go to the mayor after the council deliberates and gives a recommendation? And then,
Yeah, I think so.
and then he gets the, to the mayor.
Yeah.
Miriam, does the planning commissions have access to all the comments that were given to the planning department on this plan?
Yes, so the packet that will be sent to them, which I like loosely call the general plan packet, is gonna include the final recommended draft general plan. Is going to include all the comments that the planning department has received regarding the draft during this latest comment period. And that includes all the questions and testimony that were submitted at our latest AC general plan community meetings. And then other ones that would have been submitted by email or mail, or in person. And then it's also going to include other reference documents to help the commissioners. So that's things like the policy rationale documents and other similar resources to them. So they're going to have they're going to have physical copies and digital copies of all of these resources. Most of these resources. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Nancy?
So if we agendize it in a future meeting and one of us makes a motion to set, some specific suggestion for an amendment anywhere along and everybody agrees, we could forward it at any stage, could we? The planning commission or the planning committee or the full council or anytime during this period?
At any moment,
Yeah.
we can provide, we just have to then abide by their rules for submitting testimony, but that is just regular.
The
So
regular.
we
for
will be
anything.
well within those
Yeah.
timelines.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, if there's no other discussions from the council members, I see, Chuck, yeah, you had some, you want to testify on the agenda item 1?
Yes, Chair Charlie Young. My name is Chuck Flaherty. And I'm testifying, I really don't know what to say at this point. I'm hoping that the planning commission will come to understand the issues that have not yet been addressed by the planning department with regard to concerns expressed by the public. For instance, if you go online to the Conveo software, to their platform, and you look at this online platform tool that they have, it describes an early stage, a mid stage, a late stage for if you're going to have something like this general plan, you're producing this draft general plan. Unfortunately, the planning department didn't bring the public in until the end, which is why the public's been completely overwhelmed and confused about how to use the this online platform, how to make comments, what are the changes between the plans. So that's one problem. The other problem is that the planning department did not issue a technical report describing how the process that they went through to come to changes until August the 8th, which was after they issued the final draft and after the public comment period ended. So information such as the fact that we have over 200,000 housing units that could be built under existing approvals, that information was not provided. The amount of land that's been changed, the addition of 25,000 acres in rural, for instance. In addition, Sierra Club right now has a Office of Information Practices appeal because the planning department is refusing to provide the reasons for the specific changes that they made between the current general plan land use map and the draft plan. If there's a major, in addition, there was a report done back in 2016, a scenic resources report, which was a wonderful report, but nothing from that report was included in the general plan. They only reference it as, oh, we need to look at this at a later date. So it wasn't even brought into the general plan. So in summary, the bottom line is that this draft general plan really is a ghost of the current general plan. If you look at the goals, the policies and standards of and courses of action of the current plan and compare them to the objectives and of course the actions under this current plan, you'll see that so much is left out. It's just really quite remarkable, and it's really completely inadequate when it comes to preservation and protection of environmental and cultural resources. In addition, I would hope that the Kona Action Committee will, CDP Action Committee will ask the planning department about the impact of this accessory dwelling unit bill that was just passed that allows for up to 3 additional accessory dwelling units per residentially zoned lot in the state rural and urban land use districts. That's a huge potential impact. And the planning department, as you all know from the last meeting, that there was no quorum, of course, but during public testimony, I had asked the question of what was the impact, and the planning department said that was going to be a matter that the planning commission and the county council was going to have to consider. But after talking with the land use commission, the land use commission's belief is that it's the planning department's job to determine that impact in the general plan process. So that's all the oral testimony I have. We'll be providing written testimony at a later date. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Any questions for Chuck on his comments? Committee members?
I was curious if you had any specific questions about the impact of the Bill 123 passing, the accessory building or dwelling unit.
Yes, ma'am. The bill says that accessory dwelling units cannot be built unless there is sufficient infrastructure in place in order to handle the additional construction. But the general plan, again, the information that was provided after the draft general plan was completed, that there's already issues, for instance, with wastewater treatment, we're out of compliance. There's several administrative orders on consent with the EPA about that. We're having water, issues. We have electric power issues, just with existing, what's existing now. And then we're now finding out that even without Bill 123, there's 200,000 housing units that can be built. And so now we have this additional impact, and the bill sailed through without anybody really thinking about, well, what's the impact on the general plan and the objectives of the general plan as far as public utilities and infrastructure, environment. I mean, it impacts all of it. So I think that the answer to the question is that no one's heard what the impact of Bill 123 is going to be, which is why it was, you know, controversial at the state legislature. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have
Yeah.
I have something
Go
to
ahead,
add. The to kind of add on to what Charles said, the infrastructure for each housing unit itself, for every structure that's built, if they're using a cesspool or they're using a septic system, not including if they're tying into the new sewer line system, each housing has a certain number of toilets, certain number of sinks they are allowed to be used for a septic system, and that's per code. That's per plumbing code. So adding ADUs into a pretty much tax septic and cesspool system only inflates the issues of how our county's dealing with wastewater, and it exacerbates the already critical conditions that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I wanted to just add a few comments to that because I'm directly involved with a bunch of other, you know, kind of environmental issues as a result of the cesspools. That seems incongruent where the county's under a consent decree with the EPA to fix the cesspool problems that we have, and at the same time creating opportunities to create more untreated sewage, and, you know, without going through a sewage treatment plan to get it back to RS1, either through, well, likely it's going to be through septic tanks. And so I think there's a general concern in the public as to why those are not being addressed. Before there seems to be a more generous, I guess, invite to create more housing. I think, in my opinion, is it's being driven by the need for affordable housing, or at least the crisis that seems to be a result of that. And so that's what's driving some of the momentum. However, I do agree. I don't think that's necessarily good planning, and it's certainly not something the general plan is adequately addressing. I don't. Perhaps someone can help with. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss that, I think, in the next action item. But I just did want to let the committee members understand that, you know, I share, Chuck, your concern, and David, your observations too. It's a matter of now, I think, is how we, as an action committee, decide we want to, and then how we want to maybe communicate that going forward.
Charlie, can I make one additional comment on regard to 123?
Sure.
Someone that has been involved said something to me the other day that pretty much it was like a light bulb went off, and I wish I had this when we were testifying on Bill 123. But basically, Bill 123 is playing Monopoly. You know how you have the Monopoly board, you get a property, and then you add a house, and then you get another house, and the more houses you have on there, the higher the rents go until you get a hotel. Well, that's what Bill 123 is. I think the effect on real estate prices is going to be the exact opposite. I don't think real estate's going to be more affordable. I think it's going to become less affordable because these lots with additional homes are going to be worth more money because they're generating more income or enabling people to live there. So it's gonna be interesting how it plays out economically, but again, that information really wasn't discussed, so I'm glad that y'all are open to discussing it, on the action committee.
Yeah. Are there any other comments?
Charlie, I have a comment or two.
Yes,
Regarding Bill 123 and the general plan, of course, talks about how we need sufficient infrastructure and also talks about needing affordable housing. There's nothing in Bill 23 that says that any of these units have to be affordable, like Chuck brought up. They can be rented at market rate or above market rate. In fact, if of the 3 additional units that can be built potentially on a lot, one of them can be a vacation rental, and that's the language in the bill. So what does that do for affordable housing? You know, the general plan wants to manage tourism, and a bill like this that says one ADU can be a vacation rental certainly isn't managing tourism. And so I personally think there are aspects of Bill 123 that are illegal, and the mayor signed it. So it'll be up to someone if they want to pursue it legally, but it is in conflict with a lot of the general objectives in the general plan. I wasn't gonna say anything, but since the conversation started, I couldn't help myself. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, I read somewhere too that the improvement on the infrastructure is gonna fall to the landowner or the developer as well, that they're gonna have to bear all the costs. And for whatever improvements they make. And I don't quite understand what the county's role is gonna be in terms of improving the infrastructure. That, you know, if you have a one-off house in a place, that's maybe insignificant. But if you got a small, you know, subdivision like where I'm living, we have 6 acres of 1 acre properties. I think conceivably I could put more housing on it without improving the road that goes to the existing 6 houses. And that's, I can tell you, my neighbors would not be very receptive to that. So you know, there are some things I think that's probably need to be addressed, that then maybe they've been in some discussions, but I'm not aware of that. So I think 123 does cause a lot of concern. I think you should know there was a letter circulated, you know, to the chairs of all the action committees to seek out more information as well before the bill was actually introduced and passed. So anyway, is there further discussion on agenda item 1? If not, we can close that. And we'll go to number 2. And I think this has been, let me read it. It's a letter to Planning Department, discussion and potential decision-making, requesting more timely notice from the Planning Department on land use applications to the Action Committee. So I think this has been something that has been fairly consistent within the Action Committee's meetings and discussions among ourselves, is, you know, how do we better communicate, and how do we actually receive, we're better communicated to as well. So I'll open up the discussion. Nancy?
I believe if you reviewed all of the recording for the July meeting, you brought this up at that meeting after our testimony regarding Kona 3 LLC that initiated a discussion at our July meeting that, you know, it'd be better if we, you know, got information on these pending applications prior to it ending up, you know, a done deal for all practical purposes. And so at that point, we talked about writing a letter to the director and utilizing, you know, the authority we have in chapter 16 to receive input on pending applications. And we talked about at the July meeting that we write a letter and you'd signed it, but nothing has happened yet because we haven't had a chance to act on it. Miriam and I talked about putting some language together, and so it's been, you know, sort of sitting on the table ever since. So I'll read the draft language, and if the group is good to go with the draft language, staff can put it in a letter and you can sign it. We can get moving on this request. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll read, I'll try to, it's a short, dear Director Kern, recently the Kona CDP Action Committee agendized Bill 169 seeking to provide input on Kona 3 LLC with a 10-year extension, which resulted in a lot of public input and lengthy discussion amongst AC members. As a result, the chairman of the Kona CDP Action Committee presented testimony at the meeting of the County Council to address Bill 169. The Action Committee's position is that several issues related to the application are inconsistent with the intent of the Kona Community Development Plan objectives. And seeking to be more proactive in the future, the Action Committee turned to Hawaii County Code Chapter 16, Section 16.6. As part of our duties and responsibilities in the code, we are requesting that the Planning Department provide the Kona CDP Action Committee with briefings on pending applications early in the review process so that we may contribute timely and hopefully useful insights regarding an application's consistency with the Kona CDP goals. We would greatly appreciate your support in organizing these briefings. Sincerely, Charles Yang, Chairman. And under that, I put the section of chapter 16.6 duties and responsibilities of the Kona CDP Action Committees. Number 5, receive briefings as requested from the Planning Department on pending and approved permit applications involving property located within the planning area and other issues related to the Kona CDP. So Miriam and I put this draft together after the July meeting, and if it's acceptable to the committee members and or if somebody wants to amend it or whatever, we should go on and get it on the director's desk.
Any discussion or comments?
I want to thank you and Nancy and Miriam for working on this. I think it's a great letter, and I think it's going to be. I don't have any comments on it. I think it's really well written. Thanks.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy and Miriam, for putting that together. I appreciate it. I know we were focusing, Kona 3 was the one that really, I think, was the genesis of this, but we still, I'll leave that discussion for later. Let's just concentrate on the letter. Okay, so I guess the decision making is to execute the letter, have me sign it, and then send it to the planning director. That's the action.
Yes.
Okay, so if there's no discussion, should we have a motion on that?
don't know
I
if
moved.
we agreed already, but I don't.
Maybe the motion can be, to submit this drafted to finalize this drafted testimony or this drafted letter and have chair sign and planning staff. Finalize and send to the department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So move.
So, okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so it's been motion and second. Is there further discussion? If not, then all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Okay, hearing none, then the motion to have the letter signed and sent is passed.
And
Is
you have
approved.
draft already, don't you?
I have.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Alrighty then. So this we'll close this item for now. And then the third item is testimony at state legislature, discussion and potential decision making for continued support during the upcoming legislative session for the introduction of legislation to provide sunshine law flexibility for CDP action committees. Nancy, I think that's one of your efforts.
Okay, I think most of you remember that, last legislative session, Senator Drew Kanuha introduced a bill on our behalf. It all happened sort of last minute to amend the chapter 92 of Hawaii state law regarding the sunshine law so that we could fall under the umbrella of the niche that was carved out for neighborhood boards. That there's chapter 92 is the sunshine law, but city and county of Honolulu actually drafted and got approved a section that basically applies to them, but it actually is state legislation. It isn't just for city and county, but they were the ones that kind of led the charge on this. But the language to apply to us, the language has to be slightly tweaked. There are two minor amendments, which the bill that we introduced last year included. And so that we as CDP action committees would be like neighborhood boards. And what that means is that we could have a meeting without a quorum as long as we didn't have decision making. We know we've had to not have meetings because we lacked quorum. And the other thing that it would allow is something to be discussed that isn't on the agenda. And those are things that neighborhood boards in city and county have the ability, that flexibility that we don't. And so if something comes up or if someone walks in the door and they want to talk about something, now we have to say, what's on the agenda, we can't talk about it, put it on next month's agenda. But neighborhood boards in city and county have that ability under the sunshine law to that more flexibility. It's more grassroots if we have that flexibility. So, what happened is it got a lot of support and we as a group voted to support it. We submitted testimony, but what happened is that when it got further down through the process, I think it was in February or something, one of the committees said that it was titled wrong. It was titled something about regarding neighborhood boards or something like that, and that really wasn't what it was about. So they stopped it because they said it was titled improperly. And so it couldn't move forward because what Senator Kanuha's staff told us is that you can't change the title of a bill once it's been introduced. So he said, you know, you're out of luck till next year. So I heard from Senator Kanuha a few weeks ago, and he said that he's willing to reintroduce the bill and have it properly titled, and we can pursue it again this year. And what I want is the action committee to actually vote to support pursuing it so that it's not just me talking about this or Charlie talking about it or whatever, so that us as a body are going to move forward so that we know that when we need testimony, sometimes that you only have like one day to get testimony, and so that we already know that we have the action committee's support. So that's what I'm asking for, is to support pursuing this amendment to chapter 92 again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense because we've already supported it. So what we're doing is really just kind of following up on your first initiative, which I think makes sense. Just out of coincidence, I was in a meeting with some people last week who are from Ko'olaupoko in Honolulu, and they are all part of the neighborhood boards, and they get she said they get a lot done, but they certainly have a lot on the agendas. They meet monthly and the agendas are very full, and they take up a lot of matters that we would normally not take up, that are pushed up from the grassroots. So I think that's a good thing. In terms of how it's constructed, I do think they have to carry they carry a lot more. I won't say weight, but it takes a lot more resources, I think, to manage them. And so community participation in that is going to be key. But I support it, and I think we should have that initiative continue. In addition to writing a letter from the action committee, what follow-up can we do perhaps on a personal level with our senators and representatives as representatives of the action committee? Or is that something we would do individually? And I'm concerned about the Sunshine Law. Go ahead, Nancy.
Well, right now, we don't have to do anything. I just want support from the majority of the committee that we want to pursue this. If Senator Kanuha's office is gonna redraft the bill with the proper title, and they're gonna, it'll have to have a new number, so we're early, but the earlier we are, the more organized. Once it gets a new title and a new number, then we will need to submit testimony. And I think we should also contact, once we get a new number and a new title, we should also contact the other ACs to try to get them on board. The other thing we need to do once it gets a new number and a new title is to get somebody on the House to introduce a companion bill. But all we need to do right now is I want the majority to say they support pursuing this as a action committee.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on the item?
Does anybody have any questions about this or?
I support it, and I remember us talking about this last year. Did the planning department have any thoughts on this?
They didn't
You didn't.
respond. When we pursued it on the state
Like
level.
council or?
It's a state legislation, it's not county legislation.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of under the planning department.
It's amending state law, it's
Yeah,
not
no, I
amending, you know,
Okay.
the general plan or anything. It's broadening that section of state sunshine law. Like Charlie said, it could potentially give us a lot more work, and I think that the time management would be potentially an issue, because people might walk in off the street talking about something that's bothered them that we know nothing about, and I think, you know, we may have to get into what they have to do with the neighborhood boards, is limit length of time for testimony and things like that, but there's gonna be a lot of work involved, and I saw a glimpse of this last year, of how much work it takes to push these bills through, you know, for the next, till through the end of the legislative session. You get a notice, and then the next day is like, you have to have testimony in, you know, it's like, it's a lot of pressure even getting it through the process.
Yes, thanks Nancy for following up with Drew and continuing to pursue this. I supported it last year and I was frustrated by the titling issue and supported it again. So, and hopefully we can get a companion bill passed. And yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, we're an advisory committee. I think, you know, having a little bit looser restrictions works. And I think it's a little, it's weird that this is the law that only applies to one island and not the others. It seems a little unfair. So yeah, so I support it. Thanks.
Okay, do we need a motion?
Yes. Do you want me to make a motion? Or do you want to do it?
Nancy, are we rewriting the bill?
Well,
Or
it's gonna be.
we're supporting just having it written? I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
He wants to know, he didn't hear you, so tell him that it's gonna be a different number.
Charlie, it'll be, the content of the bill will be the same, but it'll have a new number and a new title.
Right.
So I can't refer to it supporting a specific bill right now. And so the motion would be the motion would be the action committee supports introducing legislation on the state level to have the county action, CDP action committees fall under the same meeting rules as the neighborhood boards.
Right. Right. And that would entail contacting one of our representatives to write and introduce the bill. I want to be very specific what where we're going with it.
Bill, the Senator Kanuha is gonna redraft the bill
Okay.
properly, and then we'll take that bill to one of our representatives, and hopefully we can talk them into introducing it on their side. We didn't have time to get that done last year.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's specific enough. So you're moving to support and have the bill written and introduced by one of our representatives.
Our Senate, one of our senators and one of our representatives ideally.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's the motion?
I
Yes.
second.
So moved.
Okay. So I think there's a second. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, hearing none, so that motion is passed.
Thank you. This is just, at this early stage, it gives us more standing to already be able to say that our action committee supports this, rather than waiting to the last minute when we have to hysterically say we need testimony in 1 week. You know, this gets I can tell Senator Kanuha that the Kona CDP Action Committee has already voted to support moving ahead on this again, so that'll make him feel more comfortable also. I think he's
Right.
comfortable anyway because he supports the concept. I talked to him on the phone about it last year, but this is good for him to know that we're moving also on pursuing this with him. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. Okay, there's no further discussion on this item, then that's item 3, and that pretty much concludes our business portion. Boy, we're setting record time today. So discussion for potential agenda items for the next meeting. Anyone have any comments, ideas, proposals for next meeting? That's going to be in November.
I don't have anything right now. My head is a little crowded already.
Okay, can we just have some follow-ups on these 3 items? Status of where we are?
Yeah, I guess we should.
Yeah, because I do want to follow the timeline for the general plan. And making sure the letter goes out and maybe we get a response by then. And then make sure we keep in motion the introduction of the possible creation of maybe neighborhood boards. So
I think
those are,
by the next meeting, we'll have the draft bill with the number, I would suspect.
right. Okay. Okay, so Miriam, if we can just earmark these, at least these 3 items, just for a follow-up, and we can write the language around that
Can do.
when we get closer. Is there anything else specifically that people may want to discuss?
I just want to bring up with the general plan, like, it was very clear with Bill 123 that that it has a lot to do with things, goals in the general plan, like was brought up. And Bill 123, like I think Charlie was gonna start to say, would have been something that it would have been good for us to have, presentation on from the planning department before it ended up going to the council. Cause I think there are a lot of things in the Kona CDP that would have been in conflict with Bill 123, and so that's another example of something that's a pending application that it would have been much more proactive for us to have been in on the loop earlier in the game. That's a good example of that, just as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Okay, so we have time, and so committee members, if you have topics that you wish to discuss, you can either send it to myself, Nancy, or straight to planning department that you might want to set on the agenda before we set it.
Charlie, I did I would like to have a discussion about, how.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's, I don't know if this is the place to have it, but if we're able to have the discussion, I would like for us to, raise the issue.
Yeah. Actually, I had a discussion about that with someone last week. So I wasn't gonna raise it in this issue, but it's probably a good discussion point. And again, it's very relevant to item 3 in our discussion today about communication, because that's that's gonna be a major event. Okay, so we put that on, yeah, well, I'll cover the issue with staff. So I'm pretty sure staff is familiar with Pu'ohau.
No, but we can get familiar with it.
I'm sorry, Miriam, I couldn't hear you.
That we are not, but we could get familiar with that subject.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, just Chuck, you're correct. Well, we can cover that later. Okay, so the announcements. Nancy, you're gonna give us an update on Corp Council on hosting a candidate forum. That's a no-no.
I think this came up in the July meeting too. We thought it would be a good thing for the Kona CDP Action Committee to host a candidate forum with the 2 mayoral candidates. And so Corp Council was on at the meeting in July, and she said she didn't think we had the legal authority to do it. And so she was gonna research it, and so we followed up with Corp Council, and they said that because we're part of the government agency, that it would be viewed as
Electioneering.
I don't know the phrase, but
Biased.
a campaign, that would be campaigning,
Yep.
and or words to that effect, and therefore we were told that. And we weren't really quoted a specific passage in county law or anything. It was a general belief that because it was viewed as a campaign activity, that it wasn't appropriate for a county agency, and so she said we couldn't do it. But it was kind of upsetting because I ended up going, since the subject came up, I went to the mayoral forum at the old airport. And there were so many comments that came in from the public, and they put them in these really general piles, like lack of infrastructure, or, animal control, or short-term affordable housing. So the questions were so broad because they piled in these big general category piles that the 2 candidates just made very general responses. So it was basic, as far as I was concerned, it was a useless form except to get the personality characteristics of the person. There was nothing of substance that came from the questions and the answers. But if we would have been able to do it, we could have been very targeted specifically to goals in the Kona CDP. We could have quoted goals in the Kona CDP and said, what do you think about goal number 3.6, and I think we would have gotten a lot more sense of their specific knowledge of issues, that relate to this district. So it was very frustrating to some of us that were talking about this, that we weren't, and I'd like to pursue doing more research in the future on whether it's true that we can't do it, because I was a little skeptical that was even true. So anyway, that's my report on that issue. It would have been a lot more useful to the community if we would have been able to ask questions regarding implementation of Kona CDP goals.
Yeah. Okay, the next is email update on county parks from the Department of Parks and Recreation. That was communication 2024-30.
I have not received any updates. Since the last meeting, I called each, because I sent 2 different ones. One was for just a local park down in South Kona. And one was, one that John and I were pursuing for Kealakea Regional Park and Old A's. So, I just left voicemails, so no update yet, but I think my next course of action will be just to follow up with the email then. And maybe another voicemail.
Okay. So let's see, this is just an announcement on Ironman. The roads are gonna be closed on the 26th. The recycling transfer station, I guess, is gonna be closed in West Hawaii Sanitary Landfill at Pu'uanuhulu. Environmental notice, okay, comments are due by October 23rd regarding Sea Dragon Energy seawater to jet fuel research and development, project draft EA. Are folks familiar with that? No?
I wasn't familiar until I got this. It was nice they put it on here.
Yeah,
There's not a lot we could do as a committee. I mean, it's on state lands, yeah. So, but nice to share it with the community.
yeah. You know the background on the proposal to create jet fuel or proof of concept, whether you can get jet fuel out of salt water. And I attended a thing where they went through the process itself. It consumes a lot of seawater in order to produce very little fuel, but the concept is really to see if it does work, then they can put it on military vessels to augment their fuel supply. So, but it's basically proof of concept. Okay, lastly, the planning department is currently seeking applicants for the Kona Action Committee and is requesting assistance to get the word out and to the interested community. How many vacancies do we have yet, Miriam?
Let me pull up the spreadsheet right now.
Yeah.
Two vacancies. Two and two holdovers. Three. Two vacancies at the moment.
Okay, any active applicants?
Active applicant.
No, not at this moment.
Okay. All right. Okay, that kind of concludes the whole agenda.
Wow.
What is the trees?
Are we setting a precedent today?
This is.
Warp speed.
Okay.
It started. the
Okay.
meeting.
So if there's nothing else to discuss, we can move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Bye.
Hearing none. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your
Thanks,
contribution.
Tony, for sharing the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you all.
Take care.